Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio, and today I'm very honoured to be joined by Abdul Buhari, a phenomenal British athlete who's competed in the Discus event at the London 2012 Olympic Games. What's interesting about Abdul's story is unlike the traditional athlete. For most of his career, he was actually working both part-time and full-time at different moments as a banker for Credit Suisse, which is almost unheard of in both the athletics and banking circles. And so in this podcast today, we dive into this lifestyle of balancing the two, the sacrifices he had to make, the mindset approach he had, and the lessons he learned in the process. Abdul's now full-time in banking, but is still heavily involved with the athletics circles, helping many of the younger athletes develop and prepare for upcoming competitions, while also taking part in many mental health initiatives in and out of the support. Let's dive in.
Before we dive into this, I think you've got a really cool story. When Kishan told me about yourself, I did a lot of research and looked into like how you were juggling everything. But I think it'd be quite cool for yourself to just introduce yourself and give a bit more of a background of your past and where you are now, and some more of the story before we dive into it.
Sure. You know my name already. Grew up in southwest London, Pimlico, Brixton and Stratton Vale. Started off as a 400-meter runner quite early on, and then moved over to Discus in around 2001, and then stuck with it to date. I was lucky enough, I did my first international within a year of starting the event. I've competed kind of at national level, county level, international level, Olympic level, world level, and I fell into discus by accident. So we used to live in an estate, probably one of the worst estates in the country at the time, and my parents didn't want me to get involved with anything unsavory. As a consequence, I ended up going to a Scouts, which was in a church hall. It was brilliant. I loved it. It was where I met most of my mates, and I really, really enjoyed it. They saw I had a decent arm when we were throwing, I think, tennis balls or something. So I got taken to athletics track in Tooting, Tooting Beck Athletics track on a Sunday morning. I got addicted. I loved every moment of it. I think it was just adrenaline rush at such a young age, I think about 10, 11. So I started doing the 100, 200, 400, less so the throwing, if I'm honest with you, because a lot of my mates were concentrating on the sprints and the jumps. And I wanted to obviously go with them, particularly at that tender age. And then I discovered later on that I was probably better suited to discus throwing by accident. I was doing judo whilst doing my A-levels, dislocated my left shoulder and learned that I couldn't really run. So I ended up doing lots of rehab stuff. And because I was missing athletics, I picked up the discus ended up breaking, I think, a championship record for my particular weight and age, and then I stuck with it since then. Had a series of injuries for quite some time actually. In 2006, I qualified for the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne and sadly got injured. I then joined Credit Suisse Credit Suisse Bank, I beg your pardon, in 2007. So I worked right up to during Lehman's, working crazy hours, but equally still training and kind of finding time to commit to that. I missed out on Beijing by 70 centimeters. After banging out probably the best part of 18-hour days, and watching kind of my fellow colleagues in Lehman particularly lose their jobs and kind of walk into my building, I'm asking and begging for jobs. It was horrible. I then in 2008, obviously missing out on Beijing, I made a very big and committal decision about my athletics career, which was to go part-time at Credit Suisse. So I went down from 5 days to 2 days a week, and then relocated to Loughborough University where I trained full-time. And that's how I was able to balance and juggle it. I was the first man at Credit Suisse to ever go part-time. I was the first person who went part-time who did not have, I think, the normal criterion you'd require to go part-time, which was looking after young children, looking after someone elderly, or looking after somebody with a disability. So I had no commitment in that respect. But I felt as though my sporting ambitions was enough. So I kind of pitched it, and it took some time. It took about 4 or 5 months for it to be approved, but it was approved. But I think that was more a combination of one, because kind of I really pushed for it. Two, I got some senior sponsors at the time to back me and believe in kind of my vision and also my ability. And three, I demonstrated a reasonably track record, not an awesome track record, but a reasonable track record in terms of my distances and what I accomplished thus far, and who I'd beaten and where I was ranked. So given the amount of work I was doing, i.e. at Credit Suisse and athletics-wise. And then 2009, unfortunately, I got injured. 2009 I had a good year actually, and in 2010 I got injured. So I tore my right and left adductors, the right one off the bone completely.
Oh wow!
Left one, grade 3 tear. In my first competition, I did an international for England, and I tore it in that competition. So I was out for the rest of that season, which was horrible. So got married that year, got injured that year, literally couldn't move, couldn't even walk. So I was given 3 choices that year. It was pretty much have an operation to sew it all up, both adductors, get a steroid injected in both of them so I can go and compete in Commonwealth Games in India, or rehab conservatively. So I chose to rehab conservatively, which was the right decision for me. The following year, I was the first British athlete to throw and win the English and British championships. I ended up throwing 65-44 at the time, which I think I was top 10 in the world. And then we ended up having like 10-4 discus throws. We were kind of top 10, top 15 in the world that year. It was the most competitive discus year, probably to note, because we had Lawrence Okoye, myself, Carl Marskoff, Brett Morse, Chris Scott. Everyone was battling for 3 places to go to the World Championships and 3 places to go to the Olympics. It was hot. It was probably the most watched event that year, more than 100 meters. It was nuts. So I won that, and then I won the English Championships that year, and then went to the Worlds, missed out on the final, and then did the Olympics in London and just missed out on the final. And then I broke my foot after the games, returning back into training. So it was it wasn't anything major. So I broke it in training and drove home, didn't realize I'd broken it. Next day, my foot had blown up like a balloon. I thought, oh, goodness me. Phoned up the doctor, had a scan. So the last metatarsal had been broken. Had an operation, I think a week later or a few days later. Operation was brilliant, went well. Sadly, I picked up a blood clot in my calf, which then spread to my lungs. So for the whole of 2013, I was out. I was taking warfarin, which is a blood thinner. So I wasn't allowed to compete or train because of the fact that my blood was a little bit thinner than kind of the average person, just to get rid of the clots in my body, which was quite material, because I had some trouble breathing and I was hospitalized for quite some time. So that cleared up. I then returned back into training in November 2013 with a view of competing at the European Championships in Zurich in 2014 and the European Championships in Scotland. Europeans in Zurich and the Commonwealth in Scotland. I've been selected on both for my performances in 2012. So because I'd lost a year out, I couldn't really compete, so I couldn't demonstrate form, but they trusted the fact that I was okay. So yeah, but sadly my foot wasn't the same. I had a reduction in range of movement. And as a consequence of that, I decided to retire in 2014, which is fine by me. It was just one of those things. And then I got involved in sports. So that's why I got involved in the board staff and then the coaching and the mental stuff I do for athletes. Hopefully that's as brief as I can do it.
Definitely a lot of detail in there. One of the things I want to start with is talking about growing up in Brixton and being around a lot of crime and potentially a lot of people who may have led you down the wrong path, and you were going down the scout route, athletics. What was it like being on the estate there? And I think it was it Angel Town you're on?
Yeah, Angel Town. Angel Town.
What was it like around the estate when you were going off and doing the discus and your athletics? How did that all fare with your peers around you? Did you get a lot of peer pressure?
So it's really weird. The estate is a funny place. I look back at it now. Actually, I still have fond memories of it. Albeit some of the stuff is probably I wouldn't want my kids to see today. So it was weird. So we played in like the garden, the balcony, kind of a communal area. So a lot of the guys were doing drugs, or selling drugs, or carrying all sorts of weapons. How do they feel? My peers were fine with it. I mean, a lot of them were certainly older than me. So I played a lot of football. So I was a lot quicker than them. So they respected me because I could always play it through their legs. So even though they chased me and beat me up, they'd also laugh about it. So I gained a lot of respect because of my athletic or my sporting ability, as opposed to the fact that I came away from them. And even though I came away from them, I still saw them on a regular basis. So the scouts was only one day a week, which is a Friday evening. And Friday evenings was probably the day when everybody would almost crowd out because you just finished school or college or whatever it was, there's nothing to do. So everybody would be in the area, and that's when the problems would actually occur. So even though I was taken away from that environment for that evening, I was still there, say, after school in the evenings or weekends too, except they were hardly ever there. So I spent my time still playing football with them, but it was only that day, that Friday, that I wouldn't see them. And I think the reason kind of I pulled away more sporting-wise is because I just enjoyed it. I had something else to do. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the adrenaline. I enjoyed the competitive nature of it. I enjoyed winning. And as a consequence of that, even though I came away, I didn't get anything from my peers. In fact, they encouraged me to stick to it. They was like, oh yeah, I'm just doing football. Yeah, he's gonna make it. He's gonna make it. So there was always an element of that involved. And the athletics less so because nobody even knew what athletics was. They just he can run fast. So what? Football was mainly the thing back then, particularly. So we had the Oval AstroTurf not too far from us in Kennington Park. We had a couple of schools near us, so Sacred Heart, Archbishop Tennyson's were near us. So it was a very, very competitive environment. I played for the local football club there, which was like a community centre, the youth club thing. And that was also good fun. So a lot of the boys also in the estate would play in that same place. So for the most part, everybody was trying to make it and everybody was trying to get in somewhere. It just so happens that when we moved houses, I came away from that environment a lot more. But the sport definitely was a trigger, massively of a massive trigger.
Do you still go back to, do you still do a lot of youth work and go back to different estates or different places?
No, not so much. I don't do the youth work, not because I don't want to, it's just because I don't have the time, in all honesty. Yeah. I was asked by the Princess Trust, actually, a charity called Mosaic, to kind of get involved in that. And yeah, I definitely would. I think for me, it's just a timing issue because I wanna make sure I'm there for kind of my kids, just kind of show them things and make them appreciate. But I mean, if somebody approached me directly and said, look, if you could just give me an hour of your day or an hour of your weekend so you could talk to a few kids, yeah, I'd happily do it. I mean, I know what it feels like to be on the outside and not have anyone to talk to or just kind of some sort of direction or just someone to listen for the most part. A lot of the kids these days, I find anyway, and I could be wrong, is just they just want someone to just hear them out. Just sit there and say this is what's going on. But to have that type of conversation with someone of that age, they've got to gain your trust, and trust is a very difficult thing to build over just one conversation. Sometimes being in that environment where you see someone every day or talk to them regularly is that way you build up trust. And sadly, I'm not in that. I mean, it's not sad, but I'm not in that environment. I don't live near there anymore. I moved on massively, and not just that. I moved away from London completely. I came back.
Are you not in London then?
No, I'm back in London now, but I moved away from London for quite some time when I lived in Loughborough. Okay. And then we lived with my family live in Southwest London, kind of Streatham now. So it's unless I'm in Southwest London, I rarely see these guys anymore.
Yeah. One thing I didn't know is that you were working full time for quite a while. It wasn't until you had that decision made at Credit Suisse. I always thought you kind of started Credit Suisse as a part-time position because you're already well on track with your athletics. But you at one point you say you were working 5 days, your normal banking hours, and somehow fitting in the goal of getting to Beijing. How is that even working out? Because most people who are going to Beijing, I'm assuming they weren't working. They were just
they weren't. They
were just being sponsored to do it. Yeah. How did that work out? When did you realize that this was something you could actually do for
a living?
For a living, yeah.
So after the Commonwealth Games, the guy, one of the guys who owned my athletics club, said to me, "Oh, look, what would you do if you weren't doing athletics?" Because I was injured because I wanted to fill my time. I said, "Oh, I love to do banking." So he said, "Oh, really?" And he worked in banking, but I didn't know that. So he said, "Look, I can certainly forward your CV across to a few guys that I know and see what comes of it." I said, "Yeah, great, that if you don't mind." And then I had a series of interviews. Actually, I had 4 at Credit Suisse actually, um, and then I got the job. So at the time, I worked on a fixed income desk, covering high yield traders, both in London and New York. Went into the bank, but didn't know what fixed income was, didn't know what high yield was, didn't know what a trader was. I just knew that they just made a lot of money. And then it was a very steep learning curve. I mean, it wasn't. It was like the curve was like that. It was just either pass or fail. It was so steep. So I learned very quickly, made probably a million mistakes. But I mean, I picked it up eventually. And I did a reasonable job because I got asked to go to New York actually and take my job there and come train people there. And I declined it because, as you say, I was trying to qualify for Beijing. And how I did that was I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning every day. I'd do a circuit. I'd do like a circuit in the morning, and then drive in. I decided to drive into work. I never used to drive into work, and then I paid for a parking space. I'd get into work for about 6:30, 7:45. I'd work till 4:35 when markets were closed, and then literally get in my car and sprint and drive to Crystal Palace again, and I'd do my session, would be throwing or lifting or whatever it was that particular evening, and then I'd repeat that routine right up to Beijing, or right up to the qualifying, the deadline to qualify for the Olympics. So I think I came second at my trials, which would have qualified me if I had qualified standard, and I did it. I missed out by 70 centimeters. And then the day I missed out, the following day I went back to work, and the head of the trading desk that I used to cover, fixed income desk, he said to me, "Look, you're clearly a talented individual. For you to have worked kind of 19 hours after Lehman's, because you got to remember, so I was trying to qualify in 2008 and 2007. And then to qualify for that, I started competing in 2008 to try and qualify for those Olympics. Lehman's also went down in 2008. So I was doing crazy, exactly. So I was doing crazy hours, and then.
So you were at Lehman's here or Credit Suisse?
No, I was at Credit Suisse.
Credit Suisse, okay,
yeah. But we were a little bit exposed to some of the positions we had with Lehman's.
Okay.
So that was why I was doing those crazy hours, and then we were also taking a lot of business from Lehman's too. So again, that contributed to why I was doing those hours. But equally, I was also obviously trying to throw a long way. And as you rightly said, trying to do that with those hours and no rest, and versus someone who was paid to train full time and throw a discus full time, I had almost no chance. And the mere fact that I only missed it by such a small margin demonstrated to me that if I had committed a bit more time or got a bit more recovery, I might have made that team.
Did you seek sponsorship at that time, or at the time was it a case of trying to just fit it in?
No, I did. I asked sponsorship of a number of organizations, and at the time, again, they all said no, not because they didn't want it, because I wasn't high profile enough, and 2, hasn't demonstrated or done anything material enough for them to warrant sponsorship. It's weird in sport, and it's probably not too dissimilar to life. You have to kind of prove yourself and demonstrate that you can do it, and then all of a sudden things come to you. The potential to do it sometimes isn't enough, particularly in sport. I mean, it's probably in my sport. It's unlike football. If you're potentially like a brilliant player, all the scouts jump onto you and all the clubs jump onto you, even though you haven't done anything yet, but they can see the potential. In athletics, it's different. You've got to run fast first, or throw far first, or jump far first, and then everybody gives you some love.
How did you know when to bet on yourself? Because you've been rejected by all these sponsorships. You got this busy banking job, which you could have just said, I can just stay here. This is going to occupy all my time. What made you think, I'm going to work from 6 a.m. till 5 p.m. and then I'm going to train my ass off every day?
First and foremost, I loved the discus. I loved my event. I loved being able to throw far. I love watching it in the air. I love the training. I love the adrenaline. I loved everything about it. It was my life. It was everything to me. It meant more to me than anything else. I was engrossed in it. I wanted to do anything and everything to make me a better athlete. So I was always seeking knowledge and how to improve, how to grow, how to develop, how to improve my technique, how to improve my numbers in the gym, whatever it was. So for me, it wasn't a case of commitment. It was a case of I want to throw discus further. I want to be one of the best, or even not the best. What do I need to do to get there, and what am I going to put in place to allow me to get there? And I made it that simple. For me, I mean, sport athletics at the time, and even today, is not that complicated. You figure out what you enjoy. You go harness your technique. You figure out what it is you need to do to be the best, or aspire to be the best, and you try as much as possible to put those things in place. And whether it's that nutrition, whether it's your weights in the gym, whether it's more aerobic, anaerobic, whether it's maybe core, whatever it is you're weak at, you got to work at it, and you got to work your ass off, and put those things in place so you can balance everything to try and get the right output. Which is, for me, throw the discus a long way. And what I did was I had a nutritionist, I had an S&C coach at Crystal Palace, I had my actual discus coach, and I effectively just kind of used to go to everybody individually, and then they would put the program together for me, and I'd go away and get it done. I didn't really need anybody to kind of hold my hand. You'd never ever hear anyone say, "Oh, Abdul wasn't at training," because I was always there. Even if the coach wasn't there, or the gym was empty, you'd catch me in the gym doing my session by myself from gun home, literally doing it properly. I'd be broken, and that was it. And there were days I'd come home. I mean, most nights after work, I'd come home from training about 9:30, 10:30, and then for dinner, it'd be some broccoli and some chicken. That would be it. And then I'd go again, and I'd repeat some fish or something, and some vegetables, and then I'd repeat that process until I missed out on the Olympics. And when I did, it dawned on me that, oh shoot, you know what? I actually can do this. And in fact, the failure probably helped me, in all honesty, because failure is not the wrong word, but the disappointment of making the team massively helped me, because it taught me how to commit and really go after what I wanted. And it was because of that, I kind of changed my mindset, changed my attitude to life and training, and just my approach to things. So as a consequence, I said, all right, fine. If I felt by that small margin, I was doing all that work. Can you imagine if I was doing more work, what would really happen? And there you have it. After that, I went from 150th in the world to top 10 in the world, competing around the world.
And that was from going part-time at Credit Suisse.
Yeah, that was going part-time. I mean, if even my weights numbers went up, I went from doing, I don't know, being able to just bench 150 for a bit of fun, and then I was repping out 190, 200, and starting my session at that level at bench. I was power cleaning 180. I was snatching 130. I was squatting in excess of 260, 270 for doubles. I was doing a 345 meter standing long jump. So things jumped up massively in terms of strength and training. But equally, my discus, I went from before I kind of average of 40, 50, 55 meters to be averaging 60, 61, 62, 63 meters.
What's your height and weight? Just to put some of those lifts in context.
Yeah, so 6'5". When I was lifting those weights, I mean, when I was at the games particularly, I was 127, but my competition weight was between 125, 127 kilos. Today I weigh 125.
Really? So you're not a small guy then?
I don't know. My mum said I'm a fatty.
So what was your training schedule like then in the week? You're doing a mix of weights, discus? How did you set it out? Both pre part-time and during that the run up to the games.
So pre part-time. So leading into Beijing, it'd start at 4:00 in the morning. I'd get up, I'd do a circuit. The circuit would compose of press-ups, sit-ups, and planks, and then some proprioception work. So that'd be for like 45 minutes. Jump in the shower, can of mackerel, straight drive to work. From work, I'd get some porridge. And then I'd have dedicated times in a day where I have a meal. You wouldn't believe this. See, I used to get laughed at. So I used to have a calendar reminder, times of the day I had to eat in preparation to my session in the evening. So it'd be like, so where I'd eaten so early, I'd have a kind of macro, say like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So at 9, I'd have porridge. At 11, I'd have another meal. At 1:30, I'd have another meal. At 3, I'd have something else. And then just before I start my weight session or whatever it was, or whatever session, I'd have something else. And I usually do like maybe 5, 6, 7 meals a day. Only small meals. It wasn't like a big thing. It was like, I don't know, a piece of chicken and broccoli, handful of nuts or whatever it was. It was very planned. I was very.
What sort of calories are you taking in? Because you must have been moving.
It's funny. To this day I don't know, and the reason I don't know is I never counted calories. I just ate enough to be able to function. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was never a big, massive meal. It was literally. It might have been like four sticks of broccoli and a couple of chicken breasts. It might have been maybe a couple of slices of fish, some small mixed veg. It might have been a handful of nuts, which would be maybe almonds, cashews, or I don't know, something else.
Pretty low carb? Are you quite low carb?
Yeah, I was pretty low carb. I mean, I come from a Nigerian background, so I've always eaten carbs all my life. So I probably was overloaded with carbs. So I reduced my carbs massively. Not all the time. I mean, the days where I was lifting massive weights, if I had a big session, I'd have some sweet potato. I'd certainly have some brown pasta or something like that. But for the most part, I used to get my carbs from my vegetables. Because I've always eaten carbs, so my body actually retained a lot of the carb. So for me, I didn't feel like I was missing it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, maybe some people just function better on a little bit less carbs. And it sounds like you're very much a high protein guy.
Yeah, massively. It made a massive difference to me. In fact, I mean, you got to understand. So I was born in Nigeria, grew up in London, and eating rice and potato and pounded yam and all this carby stuff, high starchy stuff was what I grew up on. And I was eating that until probably when I was, I don't know, when I was probably 16, 17. A lot of that. And then later on I started to change my diet. And that's because of knowledge. It wasn't because I didn't want to. I just didn't know about food and nutrition as much as I do, say, then and even now. So yeah, that was my routine. And then I'd train in the evenings. So Mondays was a weight session. Tuesday was a throwing session. Wednesday was a weight session. Thursday was a throwing session. Friday was a day off. Friday was a weight session. Saturday was a day off, and Sunday was a throwing session. And in those throwing sessions, you'd also do running. So you'd go for a 20-minute run, and you'd do a throwing session, which would encompass anything between 50 to 70 throws. And then you do a sprint session or core session, a proprioception session on those days where you'd be throwing. And then the weight sessions is just exactly that, just hitting the gym and hitting those numbers. Saturday is my day off where I just kind of sleep, if I'm honest with you. And Sunday, go at it again. And I repeated that routine right over to Beijing. And then after that didn't work out, when I went part-time, then my sessions changed dramatically. So Mondays would be a weight session, but a kind of more targeted weight session. Tuesday, I'd travel up to Loughborough. Wednesday morning, I was back in the gym. I'd do a weight session in the morning. I'd do and then after that, I'd do a throwing session in the afternoon. And then a core session in the evening. And then Thursday, it'd be a throwing session in the morning, a weight-specific session, so a discus-specific weight session in the morning after that. Then it'd be physio, massage, lunch, and then another throwing session in the afternoon, and then either a swim or a core session, like a yoga, Pilates kind of thing, and then stretch. And Thursday, Friday,
big difference then, yeah.
Yeah, massively. Friday, back in the gym, weight session again. Draft the weights, soft tissue or physio, or both. Lunch. Then I'd go to Friday prayers, and then afternoon, I'll then do there'd be a throwing session, a big throwing session. Then it'd be a massive circuit, or kind of some sort of aerobics, so it might be boxing for an hour, or skipping, or some sprints, or whatever it is, a core. Saturday morning, it would be a throwing session, and then potentially, usually, it would be a swim after that for about an hour. And then Saturday afternoon would be kind of either off, or it'd be a light kind of aerobic exercise, just keeping everything ticking over. Sunday another throwing session, and a Sunday afternoon off because I'll be traveling back to London. And my throwing sessions will be minimum of 100 throws, and that went after. Now that I'm based in Loughborough, so I'll be doing kind of probably so it'll be 100 throws a day as opposed to 100 throws a session. So it'll be 50 in the morning, 50 in the afternoon, that sort of thing.
Were you a big believer in like pre-training rituals or specific? You just rocked up there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite regimented, so I had routine anyway. So I didn't have anything. I didn't have any rituals. I didn't like say wear. I have a lucky socks or lucky underwear. I just had my weightlifting shoes, my gear, and I just go lift.
What about like more like mindset techniques then?
Mindset techniques are probably
especially coming into the Olympics. Like when the pressure's so high, what were you thinking mindset wise? Did you do much work on your mindset?
Mindset wise, I did a little bit of work. I mean, we had a psychologist. I mean, my wife had found me one really good one, but mindset wise, I don't know why, but I was always of the view that if I've worked hard, I'm going to get what I deserve. It's as simple as that. No one's going to take that away from me, and no one can take it away from me. So my view was, if I've done everything I can to get there, it's only I can control how good or bad I can be. I can't control what anyone else can do. And I've always had a mindset, but you also have that mindset when you're living in an estate with loads of people with strong characters. I can't control whether they slap me or not, but I can control how I react off the back of it. Yeah. Because I had that from such a young age, I was never massively stressed about what everyone else was doing. So if someone threw a long way in training or something, I was like, okay, cool, good for you. It's not my business. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to react? And because of that, I've always kind of just always focused on what I need to do. So, and I train a lot, but I train by myself a lot. I mean, 70 to 80% of my sessions leading into Olympics was by myself. It was so I knew from a very early age that I'd have to be someone who's able to just get on with it and deal with whatever comes my way. Because you got to understand at field events, not only you trying to throw a long way, but unless you're in an elite group of throwers, it's very difficult to get the best out of yourself. And in the UK, we don't have many groups where you can kind of train together. Even though I'd love to have had it, it just doesn't exist. Whereas if I was a sprinter or a jumper, you could go to various sprint groups or jumping groups and so on and so forth, where you can all pull yourself up. In the throwing fraternity, it's less so because one, there are less throwers who can throw a long way. Two, there are less coaches who can coach to that level. And three, there are less athletes who want to do the work to get to that level. So you have to make pretty smart decisions quite early on. But no, I mean, from a mindset perspective, I was pretty lucky because I was surrounded in Loughborough particularly by really, really strong characters, not just in athletics, but just like the swimmers were there, the divers were there, England cricket were there, the rugby guys were there. So you kind of feed off each other. Yeah. So I think that helped, being in an environment where everybody was pulling for success and everybody would stop at nothing to try and be better, whether it be doing that extra throw or extra run or extra jump or whatever it was you were doing or extra swim. So I think that helped me, being in that positive environment. But I think the other thing that helped me was that I had a clear vision of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to accomplish it and what I needed to do to accomplish it. I made it. I'm a simple guy, right? I make it real simple. What do I need to do to throw the discus a long way? And what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And then I get on with it. It's as simple as that. There is no reason for me to overcomplicate things. And part of the reason I made it so simple is because I was doing it by myself. Don't get me wrong. I mean, in the gym, I had my S&C guy near me, making sure my technique was on point. I had my nutrition guy helping me and bits and pieces like that. But when you're out there competing, it's not like I got football where I got 10 other guys helping me out and the fans. It doesn't happen like that. Athletics, one day you could be competing against 10 people watching. Another day you could compete against 90,000 people watching. It's the same thing.
I think that mindset is probably why you were able to balance the stresses of banking and all the physical stress you're putting on your body through the Olympic training. Because your body only knows stress as stress. It doesn't know the different types of stress. So you're giving it so much. But I think being able to mitigate it through just that exact mindset technique, must have helped you a ton.
Yeah, I think it did. The other thing I did, I mean, I still do it now, I think much to my wife's distaste, is the fact that I put everything in the box. So it's time to do this. I do that. It's time to do this. I do that, and I open one box, I close another box, I open another box, close one box, and I literally I did it like that. So it wasn't a case of like, not that I wasn't flexible, but when it was time to train, it's time to train. When it's time to work, it's time to work. When it's time to go compete, it's time to compete. Well, mine was always like clear of what I needed to do at that particular time. Um, Obviously, now I'm not involved in that. It's slightly different, so I need to be more flexible because, like, for example, my kids, they'll wake up early, and I'm like, but it's not time for you to wake up early. It's time for me to do this.
That's what happened last time.
Exactly. So I need to be more amenable in that regard. But yeah, I think I was really good at switching on and switching off. I was very good at it. Very, very good at it.
What did the Olympics teach you? Curious.
Oh, what did Olympics teach me? It taught me that. Well, first of all, it taught me leading into it that if you work hard and do the right things, you can make it. I'm 100% sure of that. And by no means was I the most talented athlete out of all my peers, but I just genuinely worked my ass off, honestly and cleanly, and kind of in a strategic way. So that's the first thing. But what did the Olympics teach me? It taught me how to be patient. It taught me how to be competitive. It taught me how to be humble, definitely. And it taught me how to be committed and also never to give up. Everybody has a story they can tell you about their challenges and frustrations and obstacles they've had to overcome. And I had to overcome my own personal obstacles, and I had to go through my journey. And the athletes that are there, all of them will have a journey or stories to tell. I mean, I was sat next to Laura Robson, and she was telling me like her challenges. I was speaking to a few of the NBA guys who were telling me their challenges. And you find at that level, I mean, the thing is, Olympics is like Hollywood, but the sporting version, right? Except whilst in Hollywood, everyone is winning the Oscars because they've had to do whatever they need to do. The Oscars is at the Olympics. Literally, you have to compete to get your Oscar. So you're in an environment where you are amongst the best guys on the planet who are the best at everything, whatever it is they do. It's a strange place to be. It's like a massive circus where everybody can run as fast as you, jump as fast as you, as far as you throw. But the only thing that separates you guys is what goes on in between your ears. That's the material difference. And who's able to execute every part of the phase of whatever it is they're trying to do well. That's ultimately what it is. Because at that level, by the time you get to the Olympics, you've competed against those guys for the past 5-6 months anyway. So no one there is a surprise, particularly in athletics. I'm not so sure about the other events, but I'm pretty sure you'd have seen them at least once or twice, whether it be a Worlds or Commonwealth. So there's nothing there you see beyond the fact that it's a scale of it. And what that taught me is, even though I was competing against the day I competed was a capacity of 90,000 people, you were able to just switch off the noise and switch off everything around you and just focus on what was going on in front of you. That is what that taught me, and that's very difficult to do. And it's not dissimilar to, say, working for Credit Suisse. It's a massive global organization, and I'm just a number ultimately at that organization. But it's able to do something that it's recognized at a global level, and that it's effectively the same thing. And that's how and in order to do that, you need to have a plan. You need to know what your plan looks like. You need to have a vision, and you need to have people who you surround yourself with people around you who believe in that vision, because you can't do it by yourself as much as you pretend to be. No one can accomplish anything by themselves. You need help. I'm not good at certain things, so I go out and I go seek that knowledge from the people who do it for a living or know what they're doing. And as a consequence of that, you learn very quickly how to bring the best out of yourself and find efficiencies. The other thing it taught me was being able to be honest with myself. And I think as athletes, or even just human beings, you always find a way that you kind of blag your way through it or fake it till you make it, that kind of thing. Like, I was never a big bencher. but I just didn't have the triceps for it. My deltoids upper back wasn't strong enough. It's a fact. But I was trying to like fake it. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. No, I'm not all right. I was just really honest with myself. I was like, cool. If I want to be at that level, I need to just get my back, my upper deltoids, whatever it is, fixed. So we did loads of work around that. And then I went from starting my session at 110, 120 to starting my sessions at 170, 180, 190. So it's a massive jump. But that taught me so much. It taught me in the sense that if I'm not good at something, I need to just be honest about it. And if I have to humble myself to starting from scratch, whether it be just press ups or whether it just be, I don't know, just going for a run or walking, whatever, then I need to do it, because clearly I need to set the foundation up to allow me to make the next step, the big jump into whatever it is I'm trying to do. And provided I have a good plan in place and hopefully someone helping me, then there's no reason why you can't do it. That's what it's fundamentally taught me.
Yeah. Speaking of the Olympics, what's the craziest story from the Olympic Village? Yeah.
Oh, how long have you got? Craziest
best one. Yeah.
Craziest story. Well, I mean, it's funny. At the Olympics, when you walk in, you get given a goodie bag, right? And the first day I walked in, I got to get this goodie bag, like a little teddy bear or pens and pencils or whatever it was. And then they give you condoms. And I'm like, I've only just walked in. Why are you giving me condoms? And they're like, oh, you just in case. I'm like, just in case what? I'm a married man. Yeah, don't worry about that. Just take the condoms anyway. So that was a bit weird for me. The other thing that was weird was, so the Olympics is of course one of the biggest sporting events in the world. And then when you're in the village, you can have access to pretty much any food, any drink, with the exception of alcohol. But what I found weird is McDonald's are clearly one of the sponsors, which obviously you know about, but you don't know you're going to have a McDonald's store in the Olympic Village. So there's a big McDonald's store. It's huge. It's probably it's probably the biggest McDonald's store you're ever going to go to in your life. And you go there and you can pretty much order anything you want for free. So if you want 10 cheeseburgers, you order 10 cheeseburgers.
Oh, wow.
If you want 20 McFlurries, you order 20 McFlurries. And after everybody competed, myself included, whether good, bad, or indifferent, the queue for that place was huge. And you got to bear in mind, right? In athletics particularly, we've still got a season after the Olympics to go competing. So you're eating all this rubbish. And then you go back to the real world. But yeah, I was quite sensible. I probably had a couple of things, and then maybe I think a lot of the ice cream and stuff, and then on the apple pies.
Couple of cheeseburgers, couple of apple pies.
No. Do you know what? I didn't eat the cheeseburgers. I didn't touch that. But I did have the apple pies, and certainly I had the muffins and the ice creams, and then. But I had competitions lined up straight after. I had like a diamond league, and I was back in the circuit pretty quickly. So it was. I mean, you have to still be very professional. But a lot of the other athletes who their season, for example, if you're a weightlifter, you don't have a season. You're pretty much Olympics. You're done, and then you're done for the year. So some of the other guys in other sports definitely went to town on the food. So I think that's what I found like quite surreal, was that you work and you get your body down to like precise precision. It's almost like a brand new Porsche or Aston Martin, and you get there, and you all of a sudden you're pouring water into the fuel gauge, and you're like. But yeah, I mean, people just need to let loose. So I think that's probably
that's the exact thing. They let loose. That's what you hear, right? You hear about the condom story. You hear that everything is pretty much carnage back in the village
after everyone's competing. It is definitely carnage. The parties at the Olympic Village, when the Olympics is over, the clubs. I mean, we were walking into clubs in central London. I mean, some of the most expensive, exclusive clubs in London for free. And I mean, I don't drink anyway, but some of the athletes were going absolutely tight because you had your accreditation, which was like accreditation, like your pass. It's almost like a driver license. Provided you had that, you could pretty much. I mean, you were walking to pretty much most places for free. And after the games, the parties were absolutely horrendous. They were messy. They were an absolute mess. People were just doing all sorts. It was comical. It was absolutely comical.
Which country is the worst?
In terms of partying, the South Americans certainly know how to party.
Yeah.
And the Scandinavians definitely know how to let loose. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think those two are probably. I know Americans were really wild. They are absolute nutters. Those guys. Everything you see is true. They are wild. They just got no inhibition and they just let themselves go. I think I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think mainly those nations. From what I saw anyway, there might have been more, but what I saw there.
Do you miss any of it? So you still training? What do you do now compared to say 5-6 years ago when you had to retire?
So I'm still training. I train every morning still. So I get up at 5 every morning. I still do a circuit. The days I coach, I still do my runs. I don't lift any weights anymore, so I just do body weight stuff now. I just try and eat well. So I still do. So I'll probably train maybe 2-3 times a week now. Not to the degree and level that I used to, but enough so I feel good.
Yeah. Why did you stop lifting weights?
Oh, just because of time, not because of anything. It's just time because I like to go to the gym and just switch off and lift and then go do what I need to do in the gym. But I don't have that type of time anymore. I've got 2 kids under 2. So that takes up a lot of my time. And before I used to live near a gym. Now my gym is about 30 minutes away, whereas before it was 10 minutes away. So it made now that extra.
You're still training, but just not in the gym, but doing other things like this.
Yeah. So I'll go to a track and I'll do some med ball work. I'll do some sprints. I'll do some drops, some plyos. I still do my circuits every day in the house. So yeah. So, but I just don't lift weights anymore.
Yeah. You still throwing the discus?
No, I just coach it now.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah. If I coach, I can do demos. I can hold the positions and stuff, but I don't throw anymore.
Yeah. What is that? Is there any reason behind that, or is just
I'm actually quite relaxed about it. No, it's because I just because my foot doesn't have that type of range that I'd like it to have, and 2 because I don't really need to anymore. I kind of had my time. I think my chapter's been and gone. I'm trying to give opportunities to the next guys coming through. Trying to help loads of athletes accomplish their goals.
Yeah, what are you most excited about with the coaching stuff? That must be pretty cool to kind of give back after so many years of being in the game, and now you're seeing the next generation come up. What are you most enjoying about that?
Yeah, what am I most excited about? I think I'm just more excited about just seeing those guys improve. It's really weird as an athlete. I wanted that extra inch, but it's so rewarding seeing someone go from maybe 10 to 20 meters, 20 to 30, or 50 to 60. Or 60 to 70 meters. It's so nice and rewarding, and you feel like you've been a part of that journey. You've helped shape that person or individual. You helped develop them, and for me, that's as rewarding as throwing a long way. For me, I enjoy it because I know what it's like to want to have that, and I know what it feels like not to have it, and to be able to help someone else accomplish their goals and their dreams. Oh, mate, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. It makes me happy too. And more importantly, it keeps the event alive because my event, as many field events, is not very well televised, not very well known. So it's refreshing that some of these guys are doing really, really well, and hopefully they keep the event alive, and hopefully we get some more champions out there. It'd be nice to get 3 guys that've been selected for the Olympic Games in my event next year. And that'd be amazing. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it'd be nice if it does happen.
So you're working at quite a high level then with these athletes. You're going
some of them. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a couple which are just starting out, but there are some who are at the top level. I feel good whether you're just starting out and you just never picked up a discus before, as much as I do when someone's thrown a massive long way. It's just those incremental changes, improvements makes a massive difference.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's all about progressive overload.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you're involved in a lot of mental health work. So tell us a bit more about this and what you're trying to achieve in this.
I'm a big fan of this, and it's one of those topics that not many people like to talk about. But I think mental health is a big deal, particularly men. Men tend to kind of shy away from the topic or don't think it's a macho topic to talk about. But personally, I think you should be able to talk about anything with whoever you trust or your trusted ear is, because ultimately, if you've got a strong mind, you can pretty much kind of navigate through most of life challenges, I think, anyway. And these guys, FICA approached me because they recognized that there's a gap in it, and kind of mental health and mental fitness, and having kind of tools to help you kind of learn from how to improve things. And when I saw it, I thought, oh, this stuff's brilliant. I know from personal experience, loads of my mates in sport experience massive challenges with mental health. And I think if they had somebody to talk to, someone to listen to, someone to just offload off, it would have made a difference to them. And it's really difficult when you hear some of your mates go through challenges, or think about suicide and things like that. You think, oh my goodness. And when I was younger, was not equipped. And even today, I don't think I'm equipped to deal with those type of topics or those type of conversations. But I say 10, 20 years ago, those conversations weren't even happening. And today, they're starting to happen, I think, which is good. And that's why I'm quite passionate about this topic, because I know from personal experience, my wife, when we had our first shot, it was really tough on her mentally. It was just, she almost felt like, she said to me, she felt like she lost her identity, because it was like everyone knew her as a mother now, as opposed to just Kate. And that transition just felt really weird. And when you speak to loads of parents, they say the same thing, and it just, mental health just encapsulates that actual topic for me. Whether you're a parent, whether you're an athlete or a CEO, everybody goes through something mentally where you think, my goodness, this is getting too much. How do I cope? And it's that, where do I go to? Who can I trust to be able to have that conversation with, that isn't going to, one, judge me, or two, think, what am I on about? And that's why I got involved, really.
So you facilitating discussion? Are you giving talks, or are you just being that listening ear? How you
specifically? I'm just being that listening ear. Unless somebody wants me to proactively do something about it, I tend to be a listening ear. So I find that athletes will approach me and say, "Can we have a chat?" And that's it. And I just listen. And if they want me to action, I typically will follow up with that. But for the most part, they just want someone to just voice frustrations, concerns, challenges. So I usually listen and provide I always give them options, say, look, this is something you could do, this is an option you could do. And I leave them to make those type of decisions. But equally, I try and provide a follow-up such that we're able to say, okay, what have you done? What are the next steps, and what we can do to improve?
Yeah, for those people who might be listening and struggling with different mental health issues, what advice can you give them?
I think the first advice is just be honest with whatever it is you're facing challenges with, and try and talk to somebody who if you feel like isn't as close to the situation, someone you can trust, or someone, even if it's not someone you can trust, someone that you can get an objective opinion or thoughts on, because bottling it in isn't going to help you or the situation. Or talking about it and having someone else opine on it, whether it be a case of, actually I can help, or actually I know someone I can help, or actually I've been through the same thing, you'd be surprised how many people will be able to talk about the same challenges. I know a number of banking CEOs, and they face the same challenges you and I face on a daily basis. But these guys control massive organizations, and are able to make big and tough decisions. So that's why I know that mental health affects anybody from, I don't know, the guy who sweeps the streets to somebody who controls a FTSE 100 company. So the first thing I would encourage is just go talk, and talk to anybody. Talk to anybody who you feel, because ultimately it's not just about talking to someone you think who's going to listen. You've got to talk to someone who you think is going to add value to that conversation. Because the worst thing you want to do is talk to somebody, they're going to give you an answer or voice an opinion that isn't going to aid that particular situation. For example, if I say, I wanted to talk to a coach, and the coach says, well, I don't think you can throw a long way, I think you're rubbish. That's not adding value to my mental health. Do you see what I mean? So I'd like to think I'd make a decision in terms of talking to somebody who's going to say, okay, what is it you're concerned about? What do you think we need to do to try and improve you? What are your weaknesses? To have an open, honest conversation. And in all honesty, as much as I'm talking about it, those type of conversations, those are type of people are very difficult to find in terms of someone who's going to be able to talk to you in an honest and open manner, but also not judge you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If people wanted to reach out to you or find out more about all the different things you're doing, what's the best place they can find you?
Well, social media, Twitter, although I'm not as active on it. But more importantly, just, I don't know, just drop me an email. I'm usually quite open. I don't mind talking to anybody, helping where I can.
Well, do you want to drop it, or you don't want to make that mistake of dropping an email?
Well, let's start off with my social media account, which is Discus Abs.
Discus Abs, great. We'll link that in. Yeah,
Discus Abs, and then drop me a message, and then we can certainly have dialogue from there on.
Awesome. Let's finish up on a quick rapid fire segment. If you had to live by one quote, what would it be?
Live, laugh, and love.
Love it. If you had to do one event that wasn't a discus, what would it be?
My son's just called World Cup too. If I had to do an event other than discus, it'd be long jump.
Long jump. And who should we have on the podcast next?
Oh, I think you should have another athlete. Her name is, she's one of my best mates. She'd probably kill me for saying this. I think you should have Christina Horrigan, Olympic, world European champ, 400 meters. Recently retired and just completed a second degree, which is she's training to become a sports lawyer, or sports barrister, to be more specific. Oh, wow. And she's just transitioning out of sport into the kind of the industry world. And her success is very well documented. But I think she would be a great addition to the podcast. More importantly, she'll be able to talk at that kind of elite level because she's won the medals. But equally, she'll be able to tell you how she transitioned and how she found it either a challenge or not a challenge to transition from sport to studies, having done a second degree at kind of an age of mid-30s, and now looking for a job in as a sports lawyer.
That's amazing. I'd love an introduction if you can make it.
Yeah, I can do that.
That'd be awesome. Any parting words?
Parting words would be, and life's too short, so enjoy it. And whatever you do something you enjoy and are passionate about. I was passionate about sport, and that's why I committed a lot more to it. I'm still passionate about it today, and that's why my day job is very much involved in it. But also, I still live it because I'm still very much involved in it. So, I mean, for me, if you're going to do anything in life, do something you really, really enjoy. Do something you brings the best out of you. And do something that when you get to a vintage age, you can look back and say, do you know what? I enjoyed my life. I did this, and this. Great memories is what I'm talking about. Great memories.
Amazing. Best way to end it. If you've enjoyed today's episode with Abdul and family and friends who'd enjoy listening to his story, please share it. For more information, please visit rntfitness.com or follow us on Instagram at rnt_fitness. Thanks for listening.